Kirito and Asuna are trying to help this chick rescue some dude because they're supposed to be good people or something. Then, this super powerful dungeon boss type thing shows up. Rather than going to a safe zone just a few meters away, the safe zone that the dude they came to rescue hid in, where nothing can get you, Kirito just stands there facing off with it like an idiot and tells Asuna to teleport everyone out, rather than running to it himself, once again because the writer doesn't know how to implement drama, and has to force it in illogical and unnatural ways, in this case by making Kirito dumber than poop. So instead, Asuna leaves the safe zone and tries to help Kirito, but they're no match for it. And then Yui comes out with a sudden personality change. She somehow regained her memories with no apparent reason as to why, and reveals that she has admin level powers. Apparently, this means that she has to use a big ridiculous flaming sword to one-shot the boss rather than just deleting it or whatever. What? Keep in mind that the only things that bore a remote semblance to foreshadowing came in the form of her somehow knowing when this chick laughed for the first time, and some random scene where she suddenly exclaims with Shakespeare tier dialogue, "Everyone's hearts are, I was alone in a dark place." So then there's some forced drama and horribly illogical character interactions, which I'll talk more about later, and she's about to disappear or get deleted or whatever, for some reason. And then, Kirito reveals that he just so happens to also be an expert hacker, and he also conveniently has the knowledge to alter the game's programming, and turn Yui, who is a fucking computer program, into a game object. This is just one of the many times where Kawahara shows off the fact that he doesn't know shit about how software or games or programming works. But anyway, he also somehow arranged for Yui's data to be stored in the memory of his headgear. He then claims he can recreate Yui in the real world. This doesn't actually end up happening, but it would have been fucking hilarious if it had. But what actually ends up happening is still a load of bullshit. This is both the first and the last time where Kirito uses his super elite hacking skills he pulled out of his ass. Where was I? Oh yeah. More Yui plot hacks and whatnot. So again, because Kawahara doesn't have the slightest inkling of how game software and servers work, and didn't even bother to at least look shit up on Google or something so he wouldn't make himself look like a complete idiot, Kirito is able to somehow port Yui from his headgear into ALO. The fact that this even happens is bad enough, but furthermore, the game somehow translates her program directly into a navigation pixie. They were just talking about the threadbare similarities between SAO and ALO, but something that's got admin status in SAO gets perfectly translated into a mere navigation pixie? What the f? She's also the only navigation pixie we ever see, but I'm guessing that the game didn't create those things to be completely omniscient. Yep, that's right. There's essentially nothing she doesn't know. She claims that she only knows map and navigational data, but she's already proved to know much more than this, as the very first thing she does is give expository information to Kirito she has no reason to know in the first place. And even though she's allegedly nerfed into nothing better than Dora's map, when the writer's own incompetence gets him in a bind with no other way out, he falls back on her time and time again to get him out of the corner he's backed himself into. For one, she continues to provide expository dialogue to explain things for Kirito she really has no business knowing in the first place, instead of Kirito having to search around or ask for information. The most influential thing she does happen in the final episodes leading up to the conclusion, where Kirito reaches the final door that's supposed to be where players win the game. She knows exactly what to do to open the door, and she is somehow able to do it with the keycard that Asuna threw down to them as well. The keycard that Asuna got from the terminal that lets you log out of the game. And then, once they're through the door, she acquires the ability to pass through walls. She's able to locate Asuna, and is somehow able to just erase the cage she's been trapped in all this time. Because I guess, how else are you going to get it open at this point? When Kirito asks if she can just log Asuna out for them, she can't. What? You had the card that was at a logout terminal and used it for something completely irrelevant to logging out, but now you can't use it to log out? I guess now complicated security codes are suddenly an issue, and weren't before, so we can force the retarded and anticlimactic showdown between Kirito and Sugo. Yui gains and loses omnipotence and omniscience whenever it's convenient or inconvenient in a certain situation. Let's go back to Sword Art Online for a while. They go after the 75th floor boss, the last of only 4 boss fights ever shown. After the second of the only 2 interesting battles in the whole show, the other being the first boss, Heathcliff is standing there with yellow health. It's a recurring rumor about him that his health has never been seen to drop below yellow. Kirito remembers when he dueled him, Heathcliff moved really fast to dodge Kirito's blow, and then beat Kirito. With these 2 pieces of not really evidence, Kirito comes out and accuses Heathcliff of being Kayaba, the game's creator. Really? Like there's no possibility of an item granting speed boosts or something like that? All this really comes off as is Kirito whining because he was beaten, and that the only logical conclusion is that the guy who beat him is the game's creator under the effect of cheats. Yet it's played off entirely straight-faced, as though it's some sort of dramatic revelation that was reached because Kirito is just that smart, and Heathcliff admits to being Kayaba. By the way, that was the only foreshadowing of Heathcliff being Kayaba that's given at all. Okay, whatever. So Kayaba offers Kirito the chance to duel 1v1 to end the game right then and there, because Kayaba had originally planned to be the final boss anyway. He turns off his invulnerability and paralyzes everyone else. They fight for a while, and Kirito is about to lose when Asuna suddenly appears and takes the blow for him. Kayaba is baffled at how the fuck she broke free of the paralysis when he didn't even put a means to break it in the game, so we're left to assume that it's the power of love or something absolutely retarded like that allowed her to break the game's own systems and rules. And of course, she didn't use her sword to block the strike. Even though she could move, she just takes it with her body, making the sacrifice pointless stupidity. Well, I guess it wasn't entirely pointless. It allowed her to get in this random-ass after-death area that only she, Kirito, and Kayaba are in for some reason. Oh, and after that, neither her nor Kirito die in real life. Even though Asuna died long before Kirito even killed Heathcliff, Kirito can't do shit and gets stabbed. His health goes down to 0. The "you are dead" shit shows up, and he dies. Like, completely disappears for several seconds. But no, he just reappears and comes back to life because, while he was dead, I guess he remembered how Asuna said she believed in him. So the power of bad writing, I mean, love, causes complete ass-pulls to happen twice in quick succession. And then Kirito stabs Kayaba, who just smiles, and then they both die. So thanks to the power of bad writing, Sword Art Online is over and Kirito saves everyone. But the story isn't over. No. Sword Art Online could have at least saved itself from embarrassment and stopped right then and there. SAO was originally supposed to end right there, but no. Idiot fanboys were all clamoring at the author like, "You need to keep writing this fanfic. I want to keep being fed more garbage because I have shit taste." Probably because they wanted to save their bitchy waifu via self-insertion or whatever. Even today, he continues on not because there's actually more story to tell, but because it sells. It's at this point when the writing somehow fell lower than it had already been, and thus, Sword Art Online became even more of an abomination as the writer forced his way forward into Alfheim Online, and inevitably, even more games. Okay, so fanboys need more of this. So how are we going to make it happen? Make another VR MMORPG, of course. Wait, why do we need this? The disconnect between Sword Art Online and Alfheim Online is huge. Asuna still isn't conscious because the writer said so. I mean, a new shitty villain randomly appeared and wanted minds to experiment on so he can control people's souls and become a god king thing or whatever. Why did this require a game to do? You later see in ALO that their minds are all housed in this one virtual room where experiments are run on them, and not in some kind of isolated environment. But Asuna for some reason is in a cage away from all this, and isn't being experimented on so Sugo can virtually molest her and whatever. You see, it required another game because you need more stupid VR MMOs because that's what the fanboys want, and that's all. It doesn't matter how illogical the VR MMO's integration into the story is. Forsake all logic just to keep forcing out more crap. Now, the fact that this game actually ends up being made in the first place is utterly hilarious. SAO was a renowned and notorious incident that caused thousands of people to die and separated everyone from their families for several years. Although the fact that this is never actually shown probably helped make it so the fanboys wouldn't question it when more games were made. The same fucking company that was running SAO is still allowed to create ALO. The new virtual reality helmets they use for ALO are literally the exact same thing as the ones for SAO, with the exception that they have more safety measures. That's all they say. Now, there are like 100 problems with this. Let's look at all of them now. 1. It's fucking retarded! I can't believe how awful this sorry excuse for hand-waving is. Furthermore, when ALO is concluded, Sugo is convicted and this second atrocious incident is all over the news. But guess what? In spite of all this, the entire concept of virtual reality gaming is still fine. There's no intervention by the government. Apparently, people aren't even fazed by it either, since they willfully jump into them repeatedly later. Yet VR MMOs are apparently in some sort of danger, and all these idiots for some reason care. But don't worry, they're saved yet again by the power of bad writing. Kayaba's ghost had appeared and gave Kirito some omnipotent plot device at the last second that allows everyone to make their own virtual worlds and connects them together. Still using the same full dive software that was the cause of these catastrophes in the first place. Apparently, that was all it took to resurrect VR MMOs. And to top it all off, even after the Alfheim Online incident, the game is just transferred to a new company who continues running it. it's possible for someone to give themselves a concussion by smashing their face into the table at this crap. I can't believe all these fanboys don't even question these crucial things. They just gobble it up without objection. Alright, there's one more ass pull at the end of the ALO arc. I mentioned it already, but I'm going to talk about it again. So thanks to a string of ass pulls, Kirito makes it to Asuna, but then the bad guy appears and it's time for the anticlimactic boss fight. Sugo invokes his privileges as the game master, so Kirito is fucked. There's absolutely no way he can get out of this one. Or is there? As Sugo is doing his retarded thing and being a cliche villain archetype, Kirito suddenly starts dreaming about Kayaba? Wait, the guy that Kirito killed is back again? He later reveals that he's a residual image, aka bullshit. The fuck? Anyways, like I said, he gives some out-of-place, pretentious as fuck speech about Kirito running away or something. I guess the fact that he couldn't do anything against the Game Master, who has the power to do whatever he wants in the game, meant he was running away. Shoehorn in another shonen cliche, and somehow that grants Kirito the Deus Ex Machina he needs to get out of the situation. Apparently, that conversation was all it took to endow him with the ability to access admin privileges that are even more powerful than Sugo's, and the knowledge of how to invoke and use them. Then, the most laughably anticlimactic showdown slash boss fight in the world happens, and then he wins. Kayaba's ghost is later hand-waved by some magical technology made by a high-output brain scan that magically completely copied Kayaba's consciousness onto the internet right before he died. Oh, and he died at the end of SAO, but not Asuna and Kirito. Funny how that works when all of them died. By the way, there was a pain absorber, and when Sugo was torturing Kirito, he was feeling actual pain. So these helmets still have the capacity to fucking hurt people. So much for those additional safety measures, eh? Kirito sets the pain absorber to 0 and then murders him in the game. Yet, when Kirito goes to see Asuna at the hospital, Sugo appears again, somehow still not dead or maimed or something. Kirito gets slashed on the arm and is about to get stabbed again when he uses his hacks to block it with one hand, the one that's hurt and bleeding all over the place. So Kirito uses his real-life hacks to win the fight, but spares Sugo's life because he's supposed to be such a good person, even though he should have died when he killed him in the game. And then he's fine, despite bleeding profusely, and goes and sees his waifu, but no nurses or doctors showed up when she woke up, I guess. Story, negative 1.033 out of 10. The show constantly contradicts its own rules, resolves conflicts anticlimactically with ass pulls and Deus Ex Machina, and throws any trace of logic out the window. But fanboys will argue that, oh no, it's actually about the characters. In fact, they're what it's supposed to be about, but ironically, the thing I hear praised the most is the world building itself. The world which, like I already mentioned, is indiscernible from any other fantasy adventure shonen. You'd think that after how awful a story was, Sword Art Online couldn't possibly get any worse, right? Haha, wrong! I'm really just getting started. So far, I've only talked about the premise and the story, which are just two of many aspects of anime. The next target is the characters. Number 5. There are no characters in this show. You heard me. There are no characters in Sword Art Online. There are plot devices, and there is fetish fuel, and there is fat material. All of these things revolve around a generic, self-insertion Gary Stu. Everyone around the Gary Stu serves only to establish how awesome he is, with the plot device villains there to show he's a good person and an unbeatable badass, and the harem cows there to establish that he's the most desirable male in the world. Let's play a little game. Describe the following character without describing their abilities, or appearance, or their relationship to Kirito. Describe them as you would to someone who's never seen Sword Art Online. Kirito. He's perfect. Or at least, that's exactly what the show wants you to think. He does nice things. Kinda. He doesn't afraid of anything. He always takes the road of normalcy. He never does anything wrong. He's a Gary Stu, but I'll talk more about him later. Asuna. Tsundere? She can cook? No, that describes her abilities. She's perfect? Liz. Tsundere? Silika. I don't fucking know. Sachi. I guess she's like, nice, I guess. Maybe. And if her little monologue is to be believed, she's afraid of dying, which is telling and not showing. Yui. Papa? Alicia. Slut. Sakuya. Slut. Kuradil. Crazy. Sugo. Evil. Kayaba. Black dude. Pussy. Pussy! I think I've made my point.